On the 18th of March 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made one of the most radical and consequential moves of his presidency. He suspended the sitting governor of Rivers State and dissolved the entire State House of Assembly. And for all intents and purposes, he suspended the Nigerian constitution in one region of the country.
Fellow Nigerians, I feel greatly disturbed at the tone we have come to regarding the political crisis in Rivers State. It has become inevitably compelling for me to invoke the provision of the Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State with effect from today, 18th March, year 2025, and I so do.
Think about that. A democratically elected governor, a sitting governor, and a functioning state legislature thrown out by presidential order. Why? Was Rivers State under a terrorist attack? Or was there a natural disaster happening in Rivers State? Or maybe a civil war that was breaking out? The answer is no. So what is going on? Why go this extent? Why go this extreme? Well, technically there's a political war going on. A power struggle that spiraled into a full-blown crisis. A fight between a godfather and his political son. Between Nyesom Wike, the ex-governor turned minister of the FCT, and Siminalayi Fubara, the man Wike helped elect as his successor. To understand how this all exploded, we have to rewind back to November 10, 2023, at the Rivers State University. You see, it was a book launch in honor of Justice Ichendu, but the real headline wasn't the book anymore, because when Wike took to the stage, he grabbed the mic and dropped a political bomb.
Let nobody deceive you. If I say there will be problem, there will be. There will be. It's not about play. I don't need to win. I need you to suffer. Just look. You can't sleep. You can't. It is people who hold you responsible. People who say you did not perform. I have finished my own 8 years.
And that was just the beginning. In the weeks that followed, Wike would appear again and again and again, sometimes mocking, sometimes warning, but always with the same message. Fubara has betrayed me.
Signed for implementation of peace. And let me tell you, and I have heard people say, oh, if they impeach him, there will be breakdown of law and order. Rubbish. Hold on, rubbish. Nonsense, which is just nonsense. I hear there are some governors who say they will take away the structure and give back to somebody. I pity those governors because I'll put fire in their states. I told you that shenanigan. They said they were doing local government election to not stand. Is it there today? All those around the governor are people who are natural Indians.
From this point onwards, Fubara would not be allowed to govern independently anymore. And as this godfather-son quarrel escalated, something even darker emerged. 8 lawmakers loyal to Wike tried to impeach Fubara, and the governor himself responded by demolishing the State House of Assembly complex.
The once gigantic, beautiful edifice of the Rivers State House of Assembly being pulled down. A total of 11 bulldozers were reportedly engaged to execute the job. They arrived at the complex before 7 a.m. Wednesday.
There's no justification for what is happening in Rivers State. When we think of the internecine effects, when we think of the cost to the common taxpayer, when we think of the position of the common Nigerian, people should be thinking of rebuilding this nation and not doing things that will bring the nation down.
What we are going to do, we will meet the governor as youth of Niger Delta, especially in Rivers State, Faga chapter. We will meet him and talk with him to shatter his sword and to make sure there is peace in our state so that development can continue.
A constitutional crisis was born, and Abuja took notice because this was something that was unheard of, something strange. But here's the real question. Is this enough justification for the President of Nigeria to invoke emergency powers, to override democratic institutions in one of the richest states in the country? Why would Tinubu take such an unprecedented step? What does this say about our democracy, about power, and about the silence of everyday Nigerians? Because what's happening in Rivers isn't just politics anymore. It's a symptom of a country quietly dying. And the silence, that might be the loudest alarm of all. The Rivers crisis didn't start with gunfire. It started with loyalty, manufactured loyalty, so to say. Fubara was handpicked by Wike. He didn't rise through rebellion or anything. He was installed. And that's where the real story begins. Because for someone who was virtually unknown, Fubara went into government and began doing something very dangerous. He began to think for himself. He refused to approve key appointments dictated from Abuja. He challenged the allocation of state resources. He even began reconnecting directly with traditional rulers without clearing it first with the Godfather. In response, Wike's loyalists in the House of Assembly attempted to impeach him, and Fubara retaliated by personally demolishing the House of Assembly in a midnight operation. The governor ordered the destruction of the state legislative building so that they would not sit or deliberate. This wasn't just a political disagreement anymore. This was a breakdown of institutional order, and it even angered the president because Tinubu used this as part of his excuse for declaring emergency rule in Rivers State. You see, Tinubu stepped in as a peacemaker, but in reality, he brokered a deal that looked more like submission. Fubara allegedly was made to sign an agreement stripping him of most executive powers just to keep his seat. And when that didn't hold, Tinubu did the unthinkable. He declared emergency control, effectively sidelining Rivers' democratic institutions. It was one of the most brazen executive overreaches since 1999. But the response from Nigerians? Silence. No protests, no trending hashtags, no emergency press conferences from civil society groups, nothing. So the question now is no longer what is happening in Rivers State, but rather, why is nobody screaming about it? Why is everywhere silent? Why are the civil society groups quiet? Why are the churches quiet? And why are the lawyers quiet? You see, in Rivers, fear is no longer a reaction. It is a lifestyle, a survival strategy, a quiet agreement between the governed and those who govern with brute force. For 8 long years, Governor Nyesom Wike ruled the state like a personal empire. What started as a bold leadership quickly morphed into authoritarian control. He had his own band. Man was moving around like a one-man military convoy. And the people of Rivers learned to keep quiet. Not because they didn't care, but because the cost of speaking up became very high. Ask any journalist in Port Harcourt off camera and they will tell you, we know what is happening. We just can't say it. Ask the young activist who once dared to protest land grabbing or expose corruption only to receive midnight calls from unknown numbers, or police invites with no charge, or sudden surveillance near their homes. Many now run anonymous Twitter pages. Some have disappeared from public discourse completely. A few have fled the country. In fact, many have fled the country. One young female radio journalist who had once boldly questioned the government spending on live TV was quietly reassigned off air. Her name faded from the station's lineup. Her colleagues got the message. You want to keep your job? Stay in line. That's the climate that Fubara inherited. And that's why the political fight between him and Wike feels less like a disagreement and more like a hostage situation. Because when a man like Wike helps get you into power, he doesn't expect loyalty, he demands obedience. Full, complying obedience. And anyone who disobeys is punished. Not just politically, but personally, institutionally, you are punished. One way or the other, you will be punished. And that is why his loyalists in the State House of Assembly tried to impeach Fubara. See, let's not pretend Nigerians haven't seen this playbook before. We've seen this. In fact, it has been here with us for a long time, but this was taken a notch further. Remember Lagos during the Tinubu Fashola transition? Or how many political godfathers around the country tried to own their successors like property? But Wike took it a step further in Rivers. His presence was everywhere. His face was on the billboards. His name constantly echoed in government circles even after he left office. His image on the street became larger than the institutions themselves. He wasn't just a former governor anymore. He was the system. He was the structure. He was the alpha and the omega in Rivers State. And even outside Rivers State. Now imagine living under such a system for 8 years. Every council chairman, every commissioner or advisor owed their loyalty to Wike. Every political structure from ward to LGA was filtered through his approval. And then one day, someone within the system, within that same structure, Fubara says, no, I want to govern this state on my own terms. I want to do things on my own standing. That is not just rebellion. That is treason. To the Godfather's order, to every member of that structure, that is treason. But here's where it gets terrifying. When that rebellion began, when the House of Assembly was demolished under mysterious order in the middle of the night, not one protest broke out in Rivers State or anywhere in the country. Not one televised outcry, not one citywide shutdown, not even a student march. The student unions that used to be very viral, not one march. Why? Because fear has done its job. Fear has done what it is supposed to do. People remember what happened to those who spoke out. Not just in Rivers anyway, but across Nigeria. They remember what happened to end SARS protesters in 2020. How bold, idealistic young Nigerians flooded the streets in peace, only to be met with bullets at the Lekki toll gate. They remember the camera lights shutting off, the screams, the denials, the gaslighting, the silence that followed, the Twitter accounts that were banned, the careers that ended in one government memo. So when a new crisis arises like the one between Fubara and Wike, people know better. They scroll past the headlines. They mute the WhatsApp broadcast and the WhatsApp statuses. They shake their heads in private but say nothing in public. Everybody just goes quiet. Because in Nigeria, we've learned hard way. Outrage gets you trending. Silence keeps you alive. Even the civil society groups that used to roar under Jonathan's time have gone quiet. Many of them are now underfunded or compromised. A few receive their own allocations from the very politicians they once held accountable. Fear has spread like smoke, like invincible, thick, suffocating smoke. This is what dictatorship looks like in modern Nigeria. Not in military fatigue, but in agbada. Not with decrees, but with godfatherism. You see, the Rivers crisis is not just about two politicians fighting. It's about a state of millions slowly choking under the weight of silence. And it mirrors the national mood. A tired country too broken to fight. too afraid to fall further. The real question is, how long before the silence becomes permanent? And when the next state falls, because certainly it will, this is just a trial, this is just one. And when the next state falls, will anyone even bother to whisper? In a country where survival is a full-time job, outrage has become a luxury. The Rivers crisis didn't go unnoticed because people didn't care. It went unnoticed because people are drowning. In fuel prices, in insecurity, in confusion, in fear. Every day in Nigeria now begins with one question. How do I survive today? From Lagos to Lafia, Port Harcourt to Plateau, people are not tuning out because they don't see. They are tuning out because they are too tired to keep looking. Their eyes are swollen from sleepless nights. Their hearts are numb from too much disappointment. This is not political apathy. This is political exhaustion. Weaponized, calculated, and sustained. From all corners, from the local government down to the state, down to the federal. Let's be honest, how many fights can one person fight in one day? You wake up to a NEPA failure. Again, you start your generator if you are lucky enough to even afford petrol at 900 naira per liter. You scroll through your phone and find out that bread is now 1,400 naira. Tuba of yam, 3,000 naira. Dollar, don't even bother. Your landlord is already asking for rent in USD or the new price equivalent. You step into Lagos traffic at 6 a.m. and get home by 10 p.m. And when you finally sit down to clear your head, you hear some politicians in Rivers is fighting another one. What is your honest reaction? I beg all of them are the sabi. I beg all of them are the same. That is your reaction. You don't care. And just like that, you scroll past. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you are overwhelmed. You are tired. You are exhausted, fatigued. The truth? Most Nigerians are one inconvenience away from breakdown, like one inconvenience away from bankruptcy. There is no fuel, there is no light, there is no food. And yet, every week, there's a new announcement from Abuja that sounds more like punishment than policy. The average Nigerian is not silent because they trust the system. They are silent because they are overwhelmed, choked, had it up to here, emotionally, economically, spiritually overwhelmed. When you are constantly calculating whether 2,000 naira should go to transport or to food, there's very little energy to look or track a political crisis in a state you don't even live in. You switch off, not because you are ignorant, but because your survival depends on it. May you not go use your head buy problem will not concern you. Now, add security, banditry. You see, bandits are now collecting taxes in the north. Kidnappers now operate freely nationwide. If you have a child in school, you pray. If you enter bus, you pray. If you are in government house, you pray. If you are even inside the church, you pray because they are even bombing churches. You remember what happened here? So you ask yourself, should I worry about a governor and a godfather fighting over power in Rivers State? Or should I worry about how to survive this week? And just like that, you scroll past the crisis. You mute the updates. You block out the noise. Because that's how Nigeria has trained its citizens. Overload them with chaos so that they stop responding. This isn't new. We've been here before. In fact, we live here permanently. See this chaos. It's organized chaos. Remember when the Naira was redesigned? People died in queues for their own money. But a week later, everyone moved on. Why? Because the pain didn't end. It newly evolved into a new one. Where's Emefiele today? This country throws a different kind of hardship at you every other week. And somehow, you are expected to remain emotionally available for national issues. It's like being in a house that's on fire while someone in the next room is being robbed. You want to help, yes. Nigerians are very good people. You want to help, but you can't even save yourself. You are gasping for air, and the roof is collapsing over your head. So you choose. Focus on the fire that's burning you or the one that's burning someone else. Which one would you choose? That's where Nigerians are right now. Everybody is fighting for their own survival. Every single day is the survival of the fittest. You might go out and the power-drunk police officer might shoot you. See, the system knows this. It knows that a hungry man will not organize. It knows that if you increase the cost of everything, you will decrease the capacity for resistance. So while they distract you with survival, they dismantle democracy layer by layer, quietly, unapologetically. And in Rivers, that is exactly what is happening. They have turned a constitutional crisis into a private family matter. Something that should get you impeached or imprisoned in a sane society will get you clapped for here. They've made state capture look like reconciliation, and they know the masses won't ask any question because the masses are in traffic, in queues, in hospitals, in job hunts. What President Tinubu did in Nigeria, in South Korea, it landed the president in jail. The entire country stood up and said, no, this can't happen here. But happened here, and 4 months in, nobody is asking any question. Where are the student unions? Where are the labor movements? Where are the social media commentators, the fast Twitter fingers, the Facebook lords who once shaped public opinion? The ones that screamed, say Baba, throughout 2019. Many of them are chasing contracts now. Many are chasing visas. Some are already burnt out. Nigerians are not just tired. They are being kept tired. This is the game. Create a society where nobody has the bandwidth to be angry. Or you can be angry, but you don't have the bandwidth to act. Make poverty normal. Make delay normal. Make corruption so consistent, it stops feeling like news. So when the constitution is being trampled in Rivers and nobody reacts, it's not because they didn't notice. It's because they have been numbed into silence. Everybody has actually agreed that it not concern me. And what's worse, we've all accepted it. People have stopped expecting better. They've stopped expecting justice. They've stopped believing that the system can still work. Look at the judgment coming out from our courts. Conflicting judgments. Judgment that you can't even rely on. Vague judgments. And the most dangerous thing in Nigeria today is not corruption. It's the hopelessness. You can't even hope on the judiciary. You can't hope on the security forces. You can't even hope on the government or the system. You can't even hope on your church. Once a people stop hoping, they stop watching. When they stop watching, they stop caring. And once they stop caring, democracy dies silently. So yes, Nigerians are distracted, but it's not by Big Brother or TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or any gossip. They are distracted by reality, the exhausting, unforgiving reality of living in a country that does not give you a break. They are distracted because survival is now political resistance. Because if you break down, nobody's coming to help you. And that's exactly what they want, what the political class wants. So when you wonder why the people aren't marching or tweeting or protesting about Rivers State or asking, come on, why is it that 4 months in, this emergency rule is still active and the state is quiet? It's because Nigerians are tired. This is what the people in power are counting on. Because in the end, a distracted nation is an easily controlled one. A hungry nation is a conquered nation. And when the day finally comes that the people look up and realize democracy is gone, they'll ask the question, when did we lose it? The answer will be simple. While we were busy trying to eat. Come, see. The most dangerous lie is not the one that is told. It is the one that is never spoken about. Mainstream Nigerian media knows what's happening in Rivers State. They know a constitutional crisis is unfolding. They know the presidency has stepped into state affairs in ways that should worry any democracy. But instead of sounding the alarm, they are switching off the mic. Instead of talking about the issue every day, endlessly, passionately, they go silent and talk about Big Brother. This is not ignorance, it is complicity. Turn on the news today, you will see carefully crafted headlines like Wike Fubara in fresh disagreement or presidency intervenes to restore peace in Rivers State. Peace? What's happening in Rivers is not peacekeeping, it's political hostage taking. But the media won't call it what it is, state capture. Because the media too has been captured. You cannot release someone where you are a hostage. Too many editors in this country don't answer to the people. They answer to sponsors. They answer to government contracts. They answer to phone calls from above that comes 30 minutes before airtime. This is why the most political sensitive stories are kept buried, softened, or maybe reframed. A demolished state assembly complex now becomes a misunderstanding. A governor stripped of power becomes strategic compromise. This isn't journalism. It's public relations for the powerful. And it's not new. Remember the herdsmen crisis? When communities in Benue and Plateau were burning and the media called it farmer-herder clashes. Clashes. As if both sides had equal guns and equal blame. As if lives weren't being lost one-sidedly. Or go back to the elections. Let's run back to the elections. How many media houses dared to question the credibility of INEC's real-time result transmission failure? They showed blurry screenshots, gave vague summaries, and quickly moved on. Because rocking the boat means risking your next government ad placement. Those ones runs into billions. We are in a country where breaking the truth can break your entire newsroom. Speak against the establishment too much and you become that crazy anchor that can be targeted. So the news is no longer what happened, it's what they are allowed to say happened. The press used to be the people's last line of defense because you want to go to the media to see, oh, what happened here? Today it's Polish gatekeeper for political propaganda. And every time they dodge the real headline, they are not just being careful, they are being dangerous. Because silence from the media gives cover to injustice. And once the press becomes afraid, the people become blind. There's a reason for press freedom in saner societies. And that's why what's happening in Rivers feels like a rumor. That's why the most honest political commentary in Nigeria now lives on Twitter or podcasts and underground YouTube channels like this one. Because the real media has traded truth for survival. So when you wonder why no one's making noise about Rivers State, look at the front pages. Listen to the primetime bulletins, to the morning shows, to the rush hour shows. The truth isn't missing. It is being buried. We think it doesn't concern us until it does. Maybe you are watching this and thinking, it's just Rivers State. Let them fight their political battles. But that's exactly how democratic collapse starts. Quietly, somewhere far from home. You will tell yourself, it's not your business until it becomes everyone's problem. Ask the Zamfara people who once shrugged off killings in Benue. Today they sleep with one eye open. Praying bandits don't raid their villages at night. Ask the peaceful folks of Kaduna South who ignored religious tension in Jos for years until churches and mosques were bombed and the streets ran red with their own blood. Ask the mothers of NSAS victims, those who watched clips from Lekki Tollgate like it was some far-off tragedy until their sons joined the protest and never came home. Ask those. We keep thinking oppression has borders in this country, that injustice stays local, that what happens in Rivers stays in Rivers. The virus of silence travels really fast, very, very fast. Today is Governor Fubara being stripped of power. Tomorrow it could be your governor, your state governor. Tomorrow it could be your state assembly torn down in the dead of night. Tomorrow it could be your vote that no longer matters. No, scratch that. It doesn't even matter anymore. Do you even care about the next election? And by the time the rod gets to your doorstep, there may be no one left to speak for you. Because everyone else kept quiet when it was your turn. Just like you are keeping quiet when it is Rivers State's turn. This is how tyranny wins in Nigeria. Not with guns at first, but with silence. Now them sabi, you not concern me. Make them do their own thing. But let me remind you, when Abacha was locking up activists in the 90s, most Nigerians kept their head down. They said, make I just focus on my hustle today. You not concern me. I'll not be Abacha brother. But what happened? The economy collapsed. Fear ruled the airwaves. People disappeared. Journalists were killed. Even silence became a crime. So don't think you can sit this one out. Rivers State is not an island. It is a state in this country. It is Nigeria's warning bell. It is the echo of what's to come if we don't speak up. We don't need to love Fubara. We don't even need to agree with him. But we must agree on one thing. No one, no matter how powerful, should be allowed to dismantle an elected government from behind closed doors. No one, not even the president. Because once it becomes normal in Rivers, it becomes possible everywhere. History is full of people who thought they were safe until the knock came on their door. So maybe it's just Rivers, but blink too long and it becomes your state. Your own, your town, your family, you. So now, after months of headlines, threats, silence, and public confusion, they are finally settled. Yes, on June 24, 2025, reports surfaced that Governor Fubara and former Governor Nyesom Wike had reached a truce. And once again, away from the people whose lives were most affected. There were no public apologies, no accountability, just another backroom handshake dressed in media smiles. No one knows the full content of their deal, but whispers in the corridors of power suggest a few things. 1, Wike's loyalists would regain some level of influence. 2, the parallel state assembly may be reabsorbed. 3, Abuja gets to pat itself on the back for restoring peace. Yeah, but here's the plot twist. Despite all that, the so-called state of emergency imposed on Rivers remain intact. Let that sink in. The crisis is over. The combatants have kissed and made up. And the state is calm. Yet the emergency order is still standing today, August 1st. Wike and Fubara are best friends again. But the emergency still stands and nobody's talking. This is the part of the Nigerian story we never learn from. When the dust settles, we just move on. We never ask who benefited, what was really broken, and what's quietly being built in its place. Let's be clear, the emergency rule wasn't declared with tanks in the streets. No. An erosion of power, a weakening of an elected governor, a complete federal silence in the face of unconstitutional sabotage. Now that the storm has calmed, you would expect the president to lift the veil immediately. But he hasn't. Why? Because the real end game may not have been Rivers. Rivers was the test run, a rehearsal, a lab experiment in dismantling democracy without a coup. So yeah, it's going to continue. First, see if people will tolerate it. Then see if the press will cover it lightly. Then wait to see if Nigerians will forget. And we did, quickly. Many people didn't even know Wike and Fubara had made peace. Fewer still knew that an emergency rule was still lurking behind the curtains. And almost no one is asking, what kind of precedent this has now set? No radio program is still talking about it till now. But here's what we have learned from this entire crisis. A governor can be ambushed politically and nothing will happen. Nothing. Absolutely nothing will happen. An unelected ex-governor can wield national power like a warlord and people will call it strategy. Federal silence is now an endorsement. And the Nigerian people, we have learned to scroll past tyranny like a trending topic. This is why the Wike Fubara peace deal doesn't signal victory. It signals complacency. because the damage wasn't in the fight. It was in the silence that followed it. So what happens next? Well, you tell me. Because if an emergency rule can exist in a peaceful state, what's stopping it from showing up in your state during the next election? What is stopping Abuja from deciding your vote is inconvenient and needs intervention? What is stopping another state governor from declaring that Peter Obi or any other candidate should not visit their state if they don't like the person? What's stopping this president or the next one from doing it again? But better this time, cleaner, maybe faster, and with even less noise. They might invoke another section of the constitution that might even be worse. Who knows? This is how countries collapse without firing a shot. This is how democracies die in countries where memory is short and resistance is rare. Today, Rivers is at peace, but the power structure that allowed its chaos still stands. And the man at the center of it all, Wike, is still in power. Still the minister of the FCT, still backed by the presidency. Still sounding like a warlord and making even bolder threats to other states. And we, Nigerians, are still tuned out, watching skits, arguing about Big Brother. Big Brother just started, pretending like this is normal. But it's not. In every sense of the word, this is not normal. It is not normal for a state to have no functioning assembly for months. It is not normal for an ex-governor to threaten a sitting one on national television. It is not normal for a president to stay mute while democracy is being choked on his watch. And it is not normal for the people, the masses, to feel nothing, to feel no patriotism, to feel no sense of ownership of their own country. If we don't snap out of this, we will lose everything. And we won't even notice when it happens. So I will say this one last time. Maybe you think Rivers doesn't concern you. Maybe you think the crisis is over. But history is already writing a new chapter. And you are either part of it or a casualty in the making. This is Shine Unfiltered. And this is the kind of silence Nigeria cannot afford anymore.